A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death.
Greetings, truth seekers, paradigm busters, new world orders, civil disobedience, freedom fighters, free thinkers, higher mammals, good people of all types. How's it going? My name is Michael Parker, and welcome to the 29th episode of the Electric Pyramid, coming to you as always from an undisclosed location somewhere in Hollywood, California. And ladies and gentlemen, as you are probably aware, it is 2015. If you're on the West Coast, it is still day one of 2015. If you're on the East Coast, well, we are pushing right into day two. And I hope that wherever you are, you had a wonderful holiday season. I did. I obviously was not on the air last week. Joe took to the air in my place. I was in Texas with my family. And I hope you guys had as much fun as I. And I hope that you're looking forward to a prosperous and happy 2015. 2014 was a bit challenging for myself and for others, but we're moving forward. And tonight, in just a few minutes, we'll be welcoming to the show an old friend of mine, Joseph Ross, who is a psychic astrologer, very gifted man, and we will talk about what some of the trends, aspects, and the astrology of 2015 looks like, and even beyond. And we will go from the macrocosm of the entire planet to the microcosm of perhaps celebrities and maybe even Joe and I. So we'll see where it all goes, and that will be in just a few minutes. But I want to reach out and say hello to my co-pilot, Joe Kiernan. Greetings.
Greetings, Michael. How are you, my good friend?
I'm doing good. Happy New Year.
Same to you. It is a happy New Year. I'm looking forward to 2015. I'm not a big fan of the even number years. So 2015, it's just a good start for me.
Well, numerically, I believe that 2015, and we'll talk to Joseph about this, is an 8 year, I believe. 8's actually my lucky number. It's the number of Saturn, and Saturn's a heavy, but Joseph will tell us about that. And when I was looking on some of my emails, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I did not realize this is the anniversary of Revolution Radio Freedom Slips. Am I correct?
You are absolutely correct. We are in our 5th year, my friend.
That is fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening to us right now, or have been listening to us on YouTube, and you like what we do, tell your friends and tell your family and ask them to, come take a listen. And if you can give a little tax deductible money to the station, that would be fantastic, because we do this because we love it, and we love getting out information to people. And if you like what we're doing, we ask that you support it. And to Nighthawk and everybody that runs this station, I say thank you. I say happy birthday and congratulations on a job well done. Let's keep doing it.
Yeah, let's have another great year. I mean, show-wise, we had a great year with timing. We I had a bunch of shows on the equinoxes and the solstices, and you had a lot of the full moons and the eclipses. So it was a pretty fantastic year in that regards. And yes, I enjoyed that a lot. Don't get me wrong, I really did.
I did too, and I found it fortuitous. And you're right, we had some conspicuous moon phases on particular shows. Which, That's got to be good. But hey, before we bring Joseph on, I wanted to run down a couple of things really quickly, just things that I saw that were interesting. And
lay it on me, brother.
One of the main things that kind of stuck out like a sore thumb to me is the Central Intelligence Agency has a Twitter account. And they said about a week ago, they made this. Now, mind you, the CIA, when they got a Twitter account, one of the first things they said, and I grant them, this was kind of funny. They said something to the effect that we can neither confirm or deny that this is our first tweet. They're being clever. Later, they had a tweet at one point that said, no, we don't know where Tupac is. Well, this particular tweet read something to this effect, which is the number one most read on our best of 2014 list Reports of unusual activity in the skies in the 50s, it was us. And then they linked to this PDF of this paper, which is called U2's UFOs in Operation Blue Book. And let me just read quickly just this one section, which basically what they're saying is the CIA takes all of the credit/blame, whatever you want to call, for UFO sightings in the 1950s and 60s. Here's what they say. High altitude testing of the U-2 soon led to an unexpected side effect, a tremendous increase in reports of unidentified flying objects. In the mid-50s, most commercial airliners flew at altitudes between 10,000 and 20,000 feet. Consequently, once U-2 started flying at altitudes above 60,000 feet, air traffic controllers began receiving increased numbers of UFO reports. Reports were mostly made in the early evening hours from pilots of airlines flying from east to west. It goes on to say that ground-based observers of what they thought were UFOs wrote letters to the Air Force. This in turn led to the Air Force's Project Blue Book, which collected all reports of UFO sightings and attempted to explain such sightings by linking them to natural phenomena. And finally, they say this, quote, the flights accounted, and they're talking about the U-2s, the flights accounted for more than one half of all UFO reports during the late 1950s and most of the 1960s. Now, let me clarify. If you guys remember our talk with Norio Hayakawa a couple of months ago about Area 51, I am not discounting the fact that SR-71s or, U-2s or certain aircraft are misidentified as UFOs. But in this particular case, I mean, come on, man. Pardon me if I don't just immediately trust the Central Intelligence Agency, the people who brought you MK Ultra. So I don't even know if they're being serious. Certainly this report is out there. You can download the PDF. But and I'm not saying that UFOs are extraterrestrials or what have you. I'm just saying they put this out. It caught my eye, and they're kind of treating us all like we're children. Like, look, we know what this is. Here's what it is. You can go ahead and go to bed now and not worry. Well, first of all, anytime the CIA admits to anything, that's when I think you need to start worrying. So I thought that was
scares the heck out of me.
Yeah. It's like when those guys start, telling the truth, then you need a cold glass of water. So
that's when you know you've been lied to enough, right?
Exactly.
When you say, I can't even tell them the truth anymore.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. There were thousands of UFO reports in the 50s and 60s, and for the CIA to claim that a majority of them were U-2s. Listen, I would even argue that a U-2 at 60,000 feet, I think it probably just looks like a speck. I mean, I don't know that it would look like
shocked you could see something at 60,000 feet, honestly.
Agreed. And the second article that I saw came from National Geographic, and one of my big interests also is the origin of mankind. And this particular article that I stumbled across was about Kennewick Man. And Kennewick Man was a skeleton that was found in Washington in 1996. Near Kennewick, Washington, Columbia River. These students stumbled upon it. Well, this thing dated back to about 7,000 BC. So this is about a 9,000-year-old skeleton.
I know this Kennewick Man.
Yeah, and it was where the remains were found were actually land that belonged to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Of course.
Then there was also a coalition of Indian tribes that were claiming the bones. So long story short, this very important remains of a human were locked up, and no scientists could really get to them for the longest time. So we had to kind of guess, what the bones were going to amount to. And apparently this gentleman, his name is Douglas Owsley. He's a physical anthropologist with the Smithsonian Institution. He and 7 other scientists filed a lawsuit in 2002, and finally they got access to Kennewick Man. And what they found about Kennewick Man, and this is interesting because obviously we've heard about Clovis Man, and humans coming over to the Bering Strait and things of that nature. When we were trying to sort out how did the first humans arrive in North America. Mm-hmm. Well, the the research that he did on, with the bones of this man showed that he was actually of East Asian origin, probably ancient Japan, or similar to the Ainu, even Polynesians. And what he was saying is that, and this is kind of what Graham Hancock has always said, hey, listen, I don't doubt that people were coming to North America over the Bering Land Bridge, but guess what? They might have also been coming with boats, boats made of skin. And he goes on to say that, they would kind of just follow the coastlines. And you have to remember that some of these coastlines would have glaciers jutting out into the water. So a lot of times you couldn't climb over it. You had to sail around it. So the point is that this Kennewick man, while found in Washington, they were able to tell from his DNA that, that he was Asian and that he was, it came from farther north up the coast because most of his diet had been seals. So he was like a maritime hunter. It's just interesting because,
that's the first solid connection.
Exactly. And
that's DNA now. Before, up until this release, it's really been one hypothesis against another, but some with stronger evidence, but nothing like DNA. This really puts a marker and say he got here somehow. We know he originated there, because really without him, we didn't. The whole thing is, people even back to Darwin are saying, has the humans that were here in this new world, were they completely separate than the humans elsewhere? That's right. Really what it boiled down to, and so this is really groundbreaking. Well, I'm not surprised the Smithsonian was involved in it, though.
I know that's interesting.
But I thought they were the ones with it the whole time, so that's what shocks me.
I know. And the Smithsonian gets kind of a bad rap sometimes because
I thought there was something with the Indian tribes wanted the bones back and didn't want them tested, and I was afraid this test was never going to happen.
Well, so interestingly enough, they were only, I guess, given access to them for a particular point of time, and the bones have gone back to the Army Corps of Engineers, from what I understand. But he goes on to say in this article, and this is where it really gets interesting to me, he mentions another guy, a guy named Dennis Stanford, and this person says that he also has evidence that indicates that people got into the New World on the Atlantic side. Across an ice pack from Spain and France about 17,000 to 20,000 years ago. So really what all of this is saying is that there were several different waves of migrations comprising different groups of people into North America. It wasn't one simple migration across the Bering Strait. And I just bring that up because as time goes on, things are getting older, mankind's past gets deeper, and we've got a long way to go, and things like this are very interesting to me, and I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was pertinent.
It is. I mean, what human doesn't have that deep curiosity of its true origins?
Yes.
I mean, we all can relate when releases like this come out. It's people listen to those. It's a natural curiosity.
So I will. We will put those links in the chat room shortly, so that you guys can take it out. And let me pull up some more notes here. So when it comes to a new year, everyone enters a new year with hopes that this year is going to be a better year, or that things are going to happen. And listen, I'm the same way. And we also always look to a new year with curiosity. And 2014 was an interesting year. As I put in my information about this show on Facebook and on Twitter, one of the things that I mentioned is, hey, I don't think that anybody would have predicted that oil would go down to $60, $50 a barrel. I don't think anybody saw Ebola within the U.S. There's things that a lot of predictions get made every year. I don't think that people saw the stock market continuing to go up, and I swear to God, I don't know how it keeps going up.
I don't know, and oil is falling, and I haven't heard Ebola mentioned in weeks.
Right.
I don't know what's going on.
But
did you have a terrible storm out your way? Did you have a lot of bad weather?
We had a little bit of bad weather, but honestly, we needed it. So yes, there was some rock slides and things like that associated with this weather because we had such a severe drought, and a lot of the ground cover had been burned away, so it becomes mud. But you know what? I mean, even though Southern California has gotten some rain, from what I understand, we would still need at least 20 more storms of the same significance in order to get our reservoirs even back to an average level. So we are far from being out of the woods. So we actually need more water. Right now, it's pretty cold out here. It's unusually cold. But getting back to what I was talking about, 2015. So 2015 is here. And when I was thinking about 2015, I'd been thinking about this for a while. It's like, I really want to reach out to this friend of mine, Joseph Ross. And Joseph Ross is an interesting guy. I met him, I think it was about 2006, I believe. And let me just read you a little bit about Joseph. At the age of 5, Joseph Ross first became aware of his psychic gifts when he discovered that he had a telepathic link with others. On graduating with honors from high school, he majored in psychology at UC Irvine. He became a Mensa member, and he experienced the human potential movement of the 60s, during which time he met a gifted humanistic astrologer who taught him how to read astrology charts. Since then, he has given psychic astrological readings to many thousands of clients from all walks of life. He's been seen on television with Uri Geller, James Von Pra, and Sylvia Brown, and he's become an international psychic reader specializing in love relationships, career, and personal growth. He is also a successful businessman. He's a happily married family man. He's a licensed financial services consultant. And one of the things that I've witnessed him do, he is also a medium. And in the second hour, I think we're going to talk a little bit about that because he has channeled some very interesting people, perhaps Richard Nixon, Salvador Dali, Andy Warhol, to name a few. So we will probably talk about that in the second hour. But right now, without further ado, I would like to welcome my old friend Joseph Ross to the Electric Pyramid. Greetings, Joseph.
Hi, Michael. Hi, Joe. Thank you for the great honor and pleasure of being on your wonderful show. Thank you.
Well, thanks for coming on. How have you been, my friend?
Much. I've been real good. I've been real busy. We had a great New Year's. My wife, who's also a psychic, and we did like 4 hours of readings last night at the Akasha restaurant in Culver City, a wonderful spiritually oriented restaurant with a lot of industry people, and we just had a whale of a good time. And
what a great name for a restaurant.
Yeah. Akasha, you ever been there? It's really a great restaurant.
No, sir, I have not, but it sounds great already.
Yeah, very natural food, gourmet, done by Akasha, the owner. She's just a wonderfully spiritually conscious person, and it was a great honor. And then I got to watch Oregon and Florida today, and I didn't even see the result. Did you guys catch that?
Well, I believe that Oregon ended up just beating the pants off of them because I finally turned it off, like in the third quarter. I mean, which brings me, I do have to give a shout out to my college. My alma mater was Texas Christian University, and yesterday we won 42-3. And we should have been, actually, if you ask me, I think that we should have been in the Rose Bowl, but that's for another story. But congratulations to Coach Patterson and the Texas Christian University Horned Frogs for an excellent showing yesterday in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl.
42-3. That's pretty good, darn good.
It was a pounding. But back to your ask about Oregon. Yeah, I think they beat the pants off those guys today. So I didn't finish up watching it either. But Joseph, tell me a little bit, because I have friends who are interested in astrology. I have other friends who think that it's that it must be just bunk. But I enjoy astrology a great deal, and working with you and some of the other very gifted people during that time period when we were all working together, I really grew to love and appreciate astrology. Tell me how you got interested in it and why you think astrology works.
Right. Well, I was always searching for something ever since I was a child, and I felt a great lack in my life, and I was very successful in school. I was a straight A student pretty much, and Mensa member actually at an early age, but I always felt a lack. I could never understand the nature of the world, and I just was very frustrated. I was always looking for God. I was looking for meaning. And so when I was just 16 years old, I ran away from home and lived in Haight-Ashbury during the 60s. And I was like really desperately searching for meaning in my life, because you know how the 50s turned into the 60s and the war in Vietnam, and that was just so insane, the war in Vietnam. And my generation looked at that and they thought, this is not right, see that little girl in that photo being napalmed.
Yes.
And and then LSD came out, which is still cresting. LSD, it's behind The Matrix, the movie with Lawrence Fishburne. And,
yes.
So it was just a time of tremendous transformation. And the planets Pluto and Uranus conjunct my sun in Virgo. That happens every, 1,000 years. And I just went through a major deflowering. So I was lost on the street taking as much LSD as I could get. And I eventually met a great astrologer who taught me how to do charts, not just the sun sign astrology, which a lot of people, confuse with real astrology, not just,
right.
You're in Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, or Pisces, but the whole chart with all the planets around the Earth when a person's born. In other words, your rising sign, your moon sign, your other planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, etc., in different signs. So I learned basically how to develop X-ray vision and to see into people's lives. And I learned firsthand by experience that it works because I could tell people all about themselves from then on. Now, why does it work scientifically, and why do people not believe in it, quote? Well, number one, the reason I feel it works scientifically, different people have different theories. Carl Jung said it's synchronicity, as above, so below. He actually had an astrologer on his staff to help him understand his clients, and he, of course, was very much into metaphysics, Carl Jung, the real hip astrologer rather than Sigmund Freud, who was kind of square, Taurus.
Joseph, I believe that Jung at one point said, hey, listen, if I can get a patient's natal horoscope, I can find out information that's worth 10 years of psychotherapy.
I would not be surprised. He was very much a supporter of astrology. A lot of Leos are, by the way. He was a Leo, and he, of course, developed the phrase the collective subconscious,
yes,
which is our dream state, which, of course, the Aborigines and so many other peoples, and, of course, psychics. I mean, I do readings in my dreams constantly, and often for celebrities, as a matter of fact. That's a whole other story, and we can talk about that. I have the moon rising. The moon, by the way, whenever I talk to a skeptic about astrology, and I've met a lot of them. In fact, I've talked with James Randi. In fact, I was on one of his shows. And anybody who thinks James Randi is a legitimate psychic, or I should say skeptic, all you need to do is go to the site Star Baby, and Google Star Baby, one word, STARBABY, and Randi, RANDI, and you'll see an article by Dennis Rollins, who was a member of PsyCop, in which he accuses Randi of fraudulently debunking astrology and the work of the statistician Michelle Gokulin. You can read about that in Star Baby, Randi. Michelle Gokulin did extensive research. He was a respected statistician in France. He did extensive research in which he found a much higher than average correspondence between people's astrological configurations and their occupation. He did thousands and thousands of case histories, and he went on record as saying it's obvious that astrology works based on his statistical analysis. So PsyCop, this skeptical organization, came along, tried to debunk his stuff. One of their people defected and said they had fraudulently rigged their own tests, but I don't want to go into that too much. I'm not here to, be down on anybody. But, Carl Sagan, who I debated at Caltech about the face on Mars.
Interesting.
Because, photographs have shown a face on Mars, and it looks like a sphinx. And it's on the Cydonia Plateau, which is where they have pyramids.
Right.
And so that corresponds geometrically to the Giza pyramid and other adjacent pyramids here in Egypt on Earth. And so, at any rate, I was debating with Carl Sagan during the question and answer period, and Carl Sagan said, well, some people say they've seen the face of Elvis on Mars, and he got a good laugh. But at any rate, he refused to sign a manifesto advanced by a lot of wacky skeptics. They're crazier than us psychics could ever be.
Well, they're just as dogmatic.
Yeah. Well, they're more dogmatic. I mean, most
That's
astrologers
true.
are extremely open-minded,
Yeah.
And we're very hesitant to judge anyone or anything because we are Uranian in nature. That's the planet that's beyond the planet orbit of Saturn. You were talking about Saturn briefly a moment ago, and Saturn is what's up on this planet right now because we got Pluto in Capricorn. Saturn rules Capricorn. Capricorn is like J. Edgar Hoover, Al Capone, Richard Nixon, Joseph Stalin, Howard Hughes. You see the surveillance state we have right now. That that's been really strong since 9/11.
Joseph, hold on. Joseph, hold on.
Did
you say they were all Capricorns?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Some of my favorite people: J. Edgar Hoover, Al Capone, Richard Nixon, Joseph Stalin. Those are the scapegoat mongers, the ones that lay guilt on people in order to control them. Then you have the mercy shower Capricorns, because the archetype is opposite the stereotype. The higher archetype of Capricorn is the mercy shower, like Martin Luther King Jr., whose birthday is coming up, and Albert Schweitzer, Clara Barton, who founded the Red Cross and ministered to both sides during wars. So the highest level of every sign teaches the transcendence over the sign, and that's something we can get into if we have time, if you like. But at any rate, to circle back to why I believe in astrology, well, number one, I've done 50,000 to 100,000 readings in my 41-year career, and number two, it cuts across. It's actually the master language. It's the one language that shows the interrelationship between matter and spirit. And the more you study it, the more you see it works. Now, some people say, well, the DNA, being a spiral, is influenced by the electromagnetic patterns of the planetary positions, and that the big black hole at the center of our galaxy resonates with these planetary positions, which resonate with the core of the Earth, with the human being on a different frequency, a different megahertz cycle, and with angelic entities on a different megahertz cycle, and that this all is tied into the supergalactic consciousness of God. Mm-hmm. Chapter 1, verse 14, or the divine, or whatever you want to call it. Chapter 1, verse 14 of the Bible says, "And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and so there would be signs and seasons and days and years." Astrology is God's language. All our languages come from astrology. Why is the sun and moon the exact same size in the sky from our point of view? The odds against that are 1,000 to 1. Hence, we have eclipses. Of course, we know that the sun is much larger than the moon, but why, from our point of view, are they almost exactly the same size? Hence, eclipses, which are related to incarnational patterns of souls migrating to Earth. And that's another long story. Cycles of history, eclipse cycles are related to the births of saviors. Right now we're in a secular savior period, but that's also, once again, another story. You'll find I digress a lot, as a lot of astrologers do. We love our science because it's a language that enables us to open up all systems of knowledge and all realms of consciousness.
Joseph, wow. When I listen to you, I'm like, nah. It's very impressive what you have to say, and your knowledge is so wide ranging. And I knew I would not be disappointed when I had you back on the show. We are apparently already getting questions for you from our chat rooms. So I'm not going to move to those yet. I know people are chomping at the bits. They want to know about 2015. So, and 2014 was on some levels, you might say it's not as turbulent as it could have been. But it was an odd year. What do you see for 2015? Is it a more positive year? Is it more of the same? Is it a masculine year, a feminine year? Is it a severe year? What do you see?
Well, Michael, from a psychic perspective, 2014 was not bad at all, okay? A lot of nasty stuff going on with NSA revelations and the surveillance state, and And the psyops in Sandy Hook and the Boston Marathon, which correspond, by the way, to what was going on in the Pluto and Capricorn previous cycle. We'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about 2015, because that's a major theme. Pluto was in the sign Capricorn. Pluto is a major planet, despite what the scientific skeptics say about its significance as a planet. It's from an astrological point of view, Pluto is the major planet in terms of generational consciousness and evolution. And so Pluto has been in Capricorn since Obama was elected in the mortgage meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
Capricorn is a sign of money and finance. You got Capricorns like a lot of wealthy people, Aristotle, Onassis in particular, but also it's like a Scrooge sign. And we're in the sign Capricorn right now. The sun is in Capricorn. In fact, the sun is going to conjoin Pluto in Capricorn in 3 days on Saturday, or a couple of days. And so you can feel the energy already. What's been going on with Pluto and Capricorn is a fascist takeover of the United States of America, for example. It's the surveillance state. It's massive actual poverty in people's consciousness and their finances. Mm-hmm. It's tremendous fear about money. Everybody's really afraid that they're going to end up out in the cold.
Yep.
And Capricorn is a winter sign, so you can see why we have had this real icy winter, which corresponds kind of to Valley Forge back when Pluto was in Capricorn before. And also, back right before the American, from 1763 to 1778, Pluto was in Capricorn. And it's been there from 2008 to 2022, it's going to be. So you see Pluto and Capricorn is very similar. America's going through her first Pluto return, where Pluto has come back to her point of origin in America's chart, because America was born July 4th, 1776. Mm-hmm. And so that's her, she's a Cancer.
Yes.
And Cancer is a sign of the home, the family, and Michael, you have the sign Cancer rising. I know what a loving father and husband you are.
Thank you.
And Cancer is very family-oriented, as is America. The American Midwest in particular is ruled by Cancer. The East Coast by the sign before Cancer, Gemini. The West Coast by the sign after Cancer, Leo, which corresponds, by the way, to longitudinal slices of the Earth from Aries, which is Great Britain, all the way around the Earth to Pisces, which is Europe. But that's another story. But at any rate, Pluto and Capricorn was during the Stamp Act, the Currency Act, in which Americans were not allowed to print their own money. In fact, we don't even print our own money today, by the way. It's printed by the Bank of England. Yeah. Uh-huh. And they get, 7%? I forget. They get a good hefty chunk of what they print. But at any rate, also the Stamp Act, the Gunpowder Act, back in that previous cycle of Pluto and Capricorn, where gunpowder was actually confiscated from the militias led by Patrick Henry and others, and they got the gunpowder back. You notice how they're trying to disarm America right now with these Sandy Hook.
So what you're saying, Joseph, it sounds to me like, is we are in revolutionary times again.
We're in pre-revolutionary times.
Got it.
This course, Pluto and Capricorn was also there in the previous cycle when Cortez conquered the Aztec Empire and Pizarro conquered the Inca Empire. That was in around 1516 to 1530. And then it was also there when, let me see, I took a few notes here earlier today. The Mongols conquered China, 1269 to 1287. That was during Marco Polo's day. They conquered China. That started the Yuan dynasty. And then 718 to 796, when Charlemagne conquered all the tribes of Europe and started the Holy Roman Empire. So Pluto in Capricorn rules a new structure, a new structuring. And you notice how our financial system is going through complete restructuring right now. Hedge funds now have more money in them than the whole rest of the world economy put together. There's a major consolidation of all the money in the world in the hands of the wealthy, and the poor are poorer than ever.
Right.
We have a surveillance state. Capricorn at its worst is satanic. The word Saturn comes from Satan, which is the goat, which is Capricorn, the goat. So, bah humbug, And so we are seeing a cold fascist takeover of the planet by the New World Order. Now, what's going to happen next is when Pluto enters Aquarius, then, humans are already beginning, all of the planet is beginning to fight globalism. Globalism and anti-globalism are occurring simultaneously because Pluto destroys whatever it would resurrect. So, us baby boomers like me were born during the Pluto and Leo generation, and so America lost its pride during World War II, but it was rebuilt by the hippies that were born then with their long lion manes. Mm-hmm. We had Pluto and Virgo, the Vietnam, the Charlie Sheen Virgo type of innocence of the 60 revolution. They were like deflowered. We got Pluto and Libra. The 70s was the disco generation. Pluto and Scorpio was the AIDS generation, where you couldn't have sex, right, but sex was on everybody's mind all the time, so pornography exploded. Then you had Pluto and Sagittarius during the 1990s and the early 2000s, when we had 9/11, when Pluto and Sagittarius was opposite Saturn and Gemini. Exactly. Gemini is the twin powers. And then you had Pluto and Capricorn as of 2008, and we have, a major surveillance state in place. We had the revelations of Snowden.
Yes.
And we have had major revelations where, like, do you know the main campaign contributor to Barack Obama's election campaign?
Goldman Sachs?
Yes. Well done.
And they probably donated the same amount of money to, my God.
What's his name?
Yeah, exactly.
McCain.
Yeah, the
shill.
Yeah.
Just like Kerry was the shill and Gore was the shill. I shook Gore's hand. I know he was a loser as soon as I shook his hand. They gave him $100 million in corporate speaking fees to lose that race. He didn't contest the Florida swindle, and then we had Kerry, who couldn't even go on record as being a war hero when the war of Evader, his people were accusing him of being a chicken. He couldn't even tell the truth. So, America has Gemini rising, and Gemini is a great sign, but it can be a real swindler. And so America is the land of swindlers and con men and fast talkers and salesmen, and brilliant lunatics and great creative entertainment communications people. Gemini also rules London, so we have that English heritage. There's 4 root races: air, earth, fire, and water. Fire tends to be the African Americans. Earth tends to be the American Indians. Air tends to be the white people, and water tends to be the Asians. And these are the 4 faces in Revelation: the face of the human, the face of the eagle, the face of the lion, and the face of the bull. So they're ruled by Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio, and Leo. And so everything is consciousness. When you were talking about the prehistoric guy, I was thinking,
Inuit man,
Yeah. Ultimately, we all come from God. We all come from the heavens. We all come from consciousness. And we materialize in earth form depending on our karma. Mm-hmm. Saturn, which rules Capricorn, is pretty scary. It rules our skeleton, which holds us together, but which is very spooky and scary. Once again, I'm digressing phenomenally here, and I'm going to come back to what 2015 is like, because 2014 was the year of the horse. It changes, by the way, during the first new moon in Aquarius. So we're going to enter the year of the sheep, also called the ram or the goat, and on January 20th of this month. But the last year has been the year of the horse, and I notice people have been much more socially oriented. A lot of more communication that went through the dark ages after 9/11. Between 2001 and 2014, I have never seen more fear, fear of being Guantanamized.
Sure.
Everybody's really afraid of going to prison for saying the various things that we're talking about right now.
And it's changed.
We have lost freedom of speech in this country.
Agreed.
And the only place you can find it is the internet. And the stamp tax and the Stamp Act, I should say, of the pre-revolutionary period when Pluto was in Capricorn last, that was an attempt to chill communications by the Crown of England. They put a tax of money on every single circular, every single pamphlet that you could print, because they wanted to cut down communication. Now they're trying to close down the internet. Mm-hmm. But, they're not going to be able to do it. And so what's going to happen long-term in the future? Long-term, we're going to go to the singularity, in my opinion, where we completely transform all life. I was talking to Timothy Leary a while ago before he passed on. I said, Tim, do you think, because he was talking about immortality and computers way before people even knew how cool computers were going to be. And I said, Tim, do you think we're going to redesign the human body for immortality? And he says, well, that's the way it's going. So we're either going to be, relatively immortal in the flesh, or we're going to blow up the whole planet. Mm-hmm. Either way, we're going back to God.
Right.
So I can't say what's going to happen. I'm a fervent follower of all the great spiritual teachings, including those of Jesus Christ, who has been very maligned by the religious right, which was fomented by the intelligence agencies in order to diminish a true Christ consciousness on this planet. But at any rate, I'm a firm believer that, as Christ said, no man can say when I will come, because Christ embodied the Christ energy in all life, in all humanity. We are all children of God. And he said, our Father who art in heaven. So we're all children of God. And we incarnate on the earth, which is like a Taurus. It's like an earth. It's about physical survival and money, in order to show our worship for God through our character developing, where we can sacrifice and feel pain for taking a stand for our fellow human beings. This is all a school, and God is the teacher. So astrology is his language. And I'm just so fortunate that my good karma enabled me to learn this language so that I can see through all systems of human thought. And I say this very modestly. I mean, I don't know everything. But yesterday's altar is tomorrow's doormat. Yesterday's altar cloth is tomorrow's doormat. That's a Punjabi saying. Astrology is treated like it belongs on the funny pages, which is where you'll find it.
Right.
And it has been maligned and persecuted throughout history. Romans used to put to death their astrologers after they did a reading, until one guy said, I see you're about to put me to death. And the emperor said, well, I think I'll spare you just to prove you don't know what you're talking about. And believe me, I feel like that sometimes, gentlemen.
Well,
it's not the easiest business.
No, and the idea that astrology, because most people do have the stereotypical vision of it, that it is simply just sun sign astrology, and a person's characteristics can be the sum of a small paragraph on the funny paper pages. And yet, to cast a natal horoscope, there is a great deal of math there. I mean, I've never been good at math, Joseph, and like when I look at natal horoscopes, I mean, I understand it just enough now to probably get myself in trouble, but I find it fascinating. And this is not something that you take lightly, or it's not really a hobby. It's not something that you can learn quickly. It would take devotion and a great deal of sincere interest to become an adept astrologer like yourself.
Well, thank you. I'm very honored by your comments. I mean, I'm a brainy kind of guy. I have been a Mensa member, and I used logarithms originally before computers had programs to do astrology, so I would calculate them with logarithms and a slide rule and all that stuff. And it was very laborious. I'm just so grateful that we can create all kinds of complicated astrology charts, including harmonic charts and compatibility charts and progression charts and transit charts now with just the flip of a switch. And astrology is a incredibly exacting science that is similar to medicine and art. Mm-hmm. I'm a blindfold chess player. I have a plus record playing chess against people looking at the board while I'm blindfolded, and they tell me their moves.
Really?
Compared to chess, astrology is like a jet. It's like a space capsule compared to a biplane. Astrology is so deep and it is so miraculous. Every day of my life, I am amazed and I learn more in this miraculous field. That's why we astrologers, we get real upset. We have a lot of hard times sometimes dealing with society's judgment of our noble science. But you know what? I'd rather be friends with astrology than all the professors in the world, because it is like having eyes. So I'm very fortunate to have this knowledge, and I'm very grateful to the fellowship of other astrologers who have been so helpful to me in my developing of my craft.
Joseph, I think we have about 5 to 7 minutes before the break. One thing I wanted to ask you is, I've had friends in the past, and I know you've been hit with this a few times, I'm sure. There are passages in the Bible to essentially steer clear of astrologers. And what would you say to that? Because I've had Christian friends in the past that tell me, well, Michael, if you're into astrology, that is wicked ways. And what do you say to that?
Well, ignorance. Why is it the people that are ignorant always talk the loudest? I can never understand that.
Right.
Jesus Christ is born at the end of the Aries age, the beginning of the Pisces age. Now we're going into the Aquarian age. It goes backwards, completes a revolution every 25,000 years. The precession of the equinox is familiar to the Hindus many thousands of years ago and mapped at Stonehenge more recently, or just a few thousand years ago, apparently. But at any rate, Aries is the ram. The son of the ram is the lamb. And we also have the good shepherd. That's the Aries age from 2000 BC to 0 BC, which was an age of constant warfare. Then it entered backwards and went into Pisces, the last sign, which is the fish, the fishermen and the fisher of the men. The Piscean age, which is the age of ocean voyage. Pisces is the water sign for the last 2,000 years, opposite the sign Virgo, the virgin.
Yes.
Only a virgin can conceive. And just as Aries is opposite Libra, which is the scales of judgment, which to me is symbolized in the crucifixion between a repentant and a non-repentant sinner, the Libra scales of justice and judgment. Now we're entering the Aquarian age backwards out of the Pisces age, and Aquarius is air sign, and so we see air travel, equal rights for all humanity. Aquarius prophets like Abraham Lincoln, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Susan B. Anthony, the great suffragette who insisted on voting even though she was a woman and was thrown in jail for it. But at any rate, Aquarius is very progressive. Now, Jesus Christ was like we all are, and this may sound controversial for me to say that, we're all beyond astrology.
Agreed.
On the highest level, we're children of God. We are beyond all mental symbology. But when we incarnate on this planet, we have minds that are analytical. Some would say for survival. I would say even more for understanding the nature of God's creation, the better to worship God. And by God, I mean he, she, it, us, the divine spirit of eternal love, which is what God really is. At any rate, so we have this mind, and that's ruled by the planet Mercury in astrology. We have this mind to communicate with. And so our very words are astrological in nature. Our alphabet comes from astrology. The letter A, capital A, you turn it upside down, you see a ram's head with the horns. That's the way it originally was by the Phoenicians. The Christians saying, astrology is evil is kind of like a Cadillac salesman saying, don't buy Fords, you know what I'm saying, or don't buy Edsel. It's like they want to print their brand on things, and they're the kind of delusory. the right-wing Christian of today who persecutes astrologers, like the three wise men were astrologers, is basically a deluded pagan. And I have nothing against pagans, but I mean, they're not really followers of Christ. I hate to sound controversial. I guess it's not not that different from everything else I've been saying, but there's a difference between being Christ-like and being Christian.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so Christians also are condemning homosexuals. And, right-wing Christians, there used to be a socialist Christian left. I'm sure you know that, Michael and Joe, here in America, that was pro-labor and helping the poor, and Woody Guthrie and those kind of people were, in the church of the poor people that were trying to create a proper dispensation of the riches of our planet. But they were a threat to the owners, to the what we call the Saturn owners. Just as the caste system that Buddha overthrew, so did Christ come along and overthrew the tyranny of ethnic and class dominance. So Christ was poor, and he preached love thy enemy, just as Buddha was rich but then became poor and preached love thy enemy. And Buddha was born 600 years before Christ. And that Asia, you see, is the right brain of the earth, and Europe and the New World is the left brain of the earth. Actually, America is the left brain of the earth, and England and Northern Europe are more left brain, and Southern Europe is more right brain, but Europe is kind of like the pituitary that connects the two. But at any rate, we're all saviors. Jesus Christ has returned, and he is us. And the same with Buddha. And, if you want to be a savior, just be a woman. Because, women are the real saviors. Jesus Christ was a man acting like a woman. And look at how these fundamental religions that are fighting all the time, the Jews, the Arabs, and the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians, all because they have a theistic male god that they believe is better than the other god. Buddhists aren't going around picking fights with people, and women aren't going around picking fights with people. Women, the stone that was thrown away became the cornerstone. So women are the true saviors. I just try to be like a woman. I try to give love and life and nurture people, and that's why a shaman will often imitate a woman, as you know, in the Native American mythos. I know once again I'm digressing, but the Christ consciousness is returning in all humanity. And just as the spirit of divine goodness in all humanity is finally going to triumph over material dominion, because on earth we have to learn to fly. We have to learn to love beyond possession. We have to learn to liberate and emancipate. Earth is a Taurus. You have Tauruses like William Randolph Hearst, and you have Tauruses like St. Vincent de Paul. The former was a monopolist who perpetuated war in order to own humanity, and the latter, St. Vincent de Paul, was a humanitarian who fed and clothed the poor. So on earth we have to learn to be beyond earthly dominion, and that's what all great teachers teach us, to love the earth, but to transcend limitation. And that's what astrology does. It is a science that teaches us to escape dominion limitation by intra-Saturnian forces rather than the higher octaves of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Uranus was discovered during 1781, Neptune during the Revolutionary period. Neptune was discovered during the abolition period, right before the emancipation of slaves. Pluto was discovered in 1930. During
Joseph,
movies. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Joseph, hold on. I'm sorry. I hear the music. I wanted while we were talking about women, I wanted to ask you about something, but we will hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. My name is Michael Parker. We're speaking with Joseph Ross. Second hour, I'm going to ask him about some particular individuals that you will all know. So hang in there. It's about 5 or 7 minutes till the next segment.
Unlimited Love.
We feature colorful guests and topics such as extraterrestrials, ghosts, interdimensionals, and aliens. We examine evidence, anomalies, archaeological ruins, and anthropology.
We explore past lives, future lives, life between lives. We get into astral projection, near-death experiences, archetypes, visions, and dreams.
Episodes include time travel, teleportation, counseling, spirituality, tantra, relationships, peace, shamanism, peak experiences, and ego transcendence.
Join the lessons Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com for The Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love.
Transcending time and space, let us take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And you will catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Lorian Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Hi everybody, it's me, the Fetch, host of Inside the Eye Live. Before the Sunday mainstream media political pundit talk shows, there is Inside the Eye Live, where we break down some of the weekly mainstream media talking points before the talking points even get aired. Add in some entertaining stories, weather, cats, intriguing and informative guests, and you get one of the most listened to Saturday morning streaming media political talk shows going today. And it's all right here on our flagship station, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. So join me, the Fetch, for Inside the Eye Live every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It is truly intelligent media for the politically aware.
Hello, and welcome back to the Electric Pyramid. I would just like to remind everyone here at freedomslips.com, we are the largest listener-supported station, and we are donation-run. So if you could please make your way to the homepage and find your way to the donation screen, would be greatly appreciated. I also wanted to slip in before we return to the program that you can now dial in 24 hours a day and listen in to either Studio A or Studio B. The phone number to dial and listen in for Studio A is 712-432-6958, and for Studio B, 716-748-0112. And so now we will get you back to your program.
A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death.
Greetings. My name is Michael Parker. Welcome to the second hour of the Electric Pyramid. It is New Year's Day or New Year's or January 2nd, depending on where you are. Joe, thank you for playing that piece. I didn't know he was going to play that. That song that you just heard.
It's a New Year's surprise, brother.
You guys, that is a song off an album I did in 2006 called Phantasmagoria. The song was called Love is the Only Answer, which is basically what Joseph is saying tonight. And the person that you heard at the beginning, I hope it didn't cut out too much, but it's Martin Luther King Jr. It came from a speech that he delivered, which was No More Vietnams. And what he basically says is that a society that spends more on military defense than on social uptake, how did he phrase it, is really going to hell in a handbasket, to be quite honest. And so thank you for playing that, Joe.
It was well done.
Thank you. Let's return to, we're speaking with Joseph Ross. Joseph is an astrologer and a psychic that I've known for, coming up on maybe 10 years now. And Joseph, right before the end, you were talking about women and listen, the person I think that a lot of people, when we talk about women and we talk about leadership, obviously you have to talk about Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is a Scorpio. We are coming up on an election year. Certainly the smart money would say Hillary Clinton, Jeb Bush. What say you?
I don't see either of them, to tell you the truth.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, Hillary is a Scorpio born in 1948. No, I'm sorry, 47. I forget. No, but I look at her planets. I don't remember the year exactly, but I know that she has, I believe it's 48. I'm not sure. No, it's 47. Oh, well. She has this real strong Scorpio significator, a black Lilith, they call it, which is, it's really negative. And she has a demonic quality to her. A lot of people really don't like her, and a lot of people make all kind of accusations, which I won't go into, about her affiliation with the New World Order, et cetera, and strange sexual practices and who knows what. And I don't even want to go into it. Right. But the major fact is she's just unlikable. She really shows something. Yeah, she shows something about feminine leadership, which is very paradoxical. Because if she was a man, she probably wouldn't have too many problems. Because she's kind of gutsy, outspoken. She's got that Scorpio sting, which is like Teddy Roosevelt was a Scorpio. And, he would say, speak softly but carry a big stick. Hillary could say, speak softly but carry a big sting. But she has an arrogant quality to her that is emotionally inaccessible. And she's guarded. She has Saturn and Leo at a 90-degree angle to her sun in Scorpio. She's born, I believe, 48, the same year, the same cycle as Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, and Cindy Williams, who is great actress, but she plays the tough one on Laverne and Shirley. And, George Bush has Saturn and Leo. And, you just see all this arrogance. And it's posturing as being kind of liberal and humanitarian, and it's not. It's sneaky. And that's why, the thing you asked, do people believe in astrology? Should they? I don't know how many people don't know that you got to be careful with Scorpios. And I know you're a Scorpio, Michael. I've always characterized you as a good Scorpio. And,
thank you.
Any sign can be good. But, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Aries are the three Mars signs, called martial signs. You got to be careful with Aries, Capricorn, and Scorpio. They're tough. They get what they want, generally. You also have the sign Cancer rising, by the way, Michael, with the dark moon Lilith in Cancer conjunct your ascendant, which shows tremendous empathic energies, very sensitive. You're just one of the kindest people I know, very caring, very genuine and sincere human being. And so, you got a grand trine water, as does Joe, by the way. You both have grand trine waters. You got planets in Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio, the three water signs making a triangle in the sky when you were born, which shows tremendous emotional resonance. It's one of the reasons that you guys are friends, is because you're both very loving, kind-hearted, and creative individuals. And so, but at any rate, to get back to Hillary, Saturn has been in Scorpio the last 2.5 years. It just left Scorpio a few days ago and entered Sagittarius. It's going to go back into Scorpio in briefly in the summer of this
Joseph,
year.
Let me just interrupt you for a second. Yeah,
sure.
The Saturn return. I mean, I've got to be honest. Like 2014 was a rough year for me. The last couple of years were rough, and yeah. But listen, I say that everything is relative. I have a place to live. I have a wonderful family. I have my health. So, but it has been restrictive. I mean, Saturn. I get it. Saturn is a teacher, and
pardon me for interrupting, Michael, but you know what's really happening with the Saturn and Scorpio the last 2 years and Pluto and Capricorn? Everybody has been betrayed in money.
Yep.
The major theme right now is who can you trust? And people don't trust Obama. It's the honeymoon is over because they see how he's playing footsies with the NSA, basically.
And Wall Street,
surveillance state, and Wall Street, and he hasn't really done jack. I mean, everybody's saying, "Oh, he hasn't done jack," and even his health plan, everybody's saying, "Oh, wonderful, he's going to help the poor." But what he's really doing is playing footsies with the insurance agencies,
exactly,
who are ruled by Scorpio. He's making privatization of national health insurance. It should be single payer. It should be like every other Western democracy has, which is, free health care basically for all humanity. We're all equally holy. We should take care of our old and our young and our women and our poor. And he's not doing that. And so he's basically a shill for the New World Order. I hate to say it, but, eventually you see the emperor has no clothes.
Agreed.
And I'm very politically active, and I was city commissioner for 5 years in Monterey Park. I love, government and politics and helping people. But, we're looking at a fascist takeover of our country. Now, Capricorn rules money, so you see the major swindle is in. Mm-hmm. And also, all our currency is going to be reconstructed. The Russia, China, and the Arab countries are now considering developing their own currency, which is labor-backed, rather than fiat currency, which is just printed out of paper by the New World Order and enforced with the guns of the United States.
Yep.
The United States is owned by the New World Order, so it's basically like, take our paper or we'll shoot you, basically, is what's going on. And they're tired of that, and it's not going to work. And China's not going to put up with it anymore. China's been building our nuclear submarines. China, we have a $100 billion trade deficit a year with China. China is the sleeping giant. They're not going to put up with these Americans telling them to take their worthless paper. You want to know something? The Chinese invented paper currency, and they did that during another Pluto and Capricorn cycle around 1044, as I recall. But at any rate, what's happening right now is the emperor has no clothes. Look at what happened with Bill Cosby. The beloved, comic. Everybody loved him. He broke the color barrier. He was folksy. He was family-oriented. But there was always a tinge of arrogance to him for the discerning eye.
Yes.
Yeah. And that, and he had Mars in Scorpio in the House of Partnerships, and Pluto conjunct his Sun in Cancer. So he got lower Scorpio can be sneaky. Higher Scorpio is very compassionate healer of humanity. We always got to remember every sign has a range. So Scorpio is either the destroyer or the healer. So at any rate, Scorpio Hillary Clinton, I don't feel she's going to, I think she's going to blow it this summer. There's some revelations going to come out. I believe that they're probably holding a dark horse in the background who will be a hero, just like Barack Obama was, that we can root for. Mm-hmm. So they're smart. They're the smartest people in the world. Rich people are the smartest people in the world, and the super rich, they run our planet. That which is highly esteemed among men is abomination in the sight of God. So that's Saturn's dominion. That's the Old Testament, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. The New Testament is love thy enemy. So Aquarian Age is about humanitarianism and loving all humanity, and we're all equal. But the Old Age is holding on, and the Old Age is the Pisces Age, which is the Catholic Church is ruled by Pisces. And the Jesuits run pretty much everything through the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. And they're holding on tight, and they're trying to swindle people into believing that they're the heroes, and that these godless heathens, Well, he was also, yeah, there you go. And so they're doing an incredible PR job now, and everybody's saying, the Christian,
that's the phrase I would use as well.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, PR job. But
exactly.
Are they kind of forgetting the fact that they enslaved the Native Americans to work in their salt mines under Cortez and Pizarro?
Well, they've got a whole laundry list of atrocities.
Are they forgetting the fact that they sided with Adolf Hitler during the World War II? You know,
well,
I mean, they sanctioned Adolf Hitler.
Well, there's
and
that
I don't hear a lot of apologize
thing,
about. Excuse me?
There's that nasty pedophilia thing that keeps hanging around.
Well, yeah, pedophilia, and that's the skeleton in the closet. And they, I know this is risky to say all this, but if you really study history, you're going to see who was behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy, and on and on and on. So I'm telling you right now, I'm sharing the most controversial stuff you can share in the world right now. But you know what? I'm an old man. I got nothing to lose. I have to really be honest. And besides, I love humanity too much. And besides, God is my protector.
Agreed.
So I feel that everybody needs to be honest now. And that's the Aquarian age. It's transparent. The only thing that's going to save our planet from nuclear destruction, like Fukushima, and chemtrails, which are these huge plumes that are covering our sky with aluminum oxide and radioactive barium, and GMOs.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to save us is humanity waking up. Just like they overthrew the Berlin Wall, and during the Arab Spring, they overthrew the dictators that were put in place. All the Arab countries were partitioned originally by France, England, and America in order to get oil, and then now we justify a psyop. We justify with a psyop the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq, and the killing of 1 million men, women, and children in Iraq in the name of democracy. I mean, I never thought I would see. I grew up pledging allegiance to the flag. I know you did. We've had some talks before.
Yeah.
I grew up pledging allegiance to the flag, thinking this is the greatest country in the world. And you know what? It is a great country, but it's not owned by its people.
Right. Things have changed. So you brought up Iraq and Afghanistan. So, then we have to talk about Jeb Bush, because it's hard to believe. I mean, listen, this guy apparently it came out today that, he's resigning from all these boards that he's on. And I mean, for years, people have said, Jeb's going to run next. I mean, to you and I, that looks just absolutely crazy. Like, who would vote for this guy?
Well, as a chess player, this is what I call a diversion.
Right.
Okay. There, to be a strategist, a strategician here, to look at this strategically, you're going to put out real bad alternatives to make your next Obama in the wings look great.
Got it.
And so when they sprang Obama on us, it was like, oh, he's a hero. He's going to rescue us from Bush. Because Bush was just the worst thing that has ever crawled up out of the sewer of American karma.
He was pretty bad.
Oh, evil. God, if he weren't so stupid, he could have been more evil.
Well, I look at Cheney.
But he was just a patsy. A patsy.
Yeah.
Cheney was his
Cheney and
operator.
Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz and Pearl and all those guys.
Yeah. And it was all about oil, which is ruled by Scorpio, by the way. You asked why did oil go down? Because Saturn and Scorpio. Saturn's a difficult planet. It challenges everything it touches. Saturn, so Saturn and Scorpio the last 2.5 years. But even that's a ploy. The whole stock market is totally rigged. I made a nice little bundle off rare earths when Pluto entered Capricorn, because I knew that the Chinese were going to restrict rare earth exportation, and so I had one stock, it multiplied 20-fold.
Wow.
Because it was in rare earths. But that boom went bust after a while too. All these .com bubbles and all these other bubbles time is accelerating. With the Mayan calendar, time is accelerating. We reached the end of the Mayan calendar cycle. We're now being reborn right now. We're in our infancy as a species. We're just beginning to wake up. There's not going to be any Saturn daddy, like Capricorn, like Joe Stalin telling us what to do anymore. We're going to overthrow all this, pardon the language, bullshit. We're going to overthrow all these people. And we're going to do it by just refusing to play their game anymore. And they know it. That's why they're trying to hypnotize us with these bread and circuses, you know, with these artificial little, like this Korean dispute. I mean, that's related to Pluto and Capricorn, too, and there may be another little flurry of action just the next few days behind that, because when Sun conjuncts Pluto and Capricorn, because Koreans are ruled by Capricorn. Every nation has an astrological identity. Capricorn's kind of serious. Koreans are real serious people, real ancient people, real noble, hardworking, responsible people, but very uptight, you know, at times. You know, you ever walk into a liquor store run by a Korean guy, it's like, how come you no buy? You know, and I'm being really facetious in saying this, but, you know, the Capricorn is so strong and serious, and it rules money, and Pluto destroys everything it touches. So look at what Korea has been going through lately, and then they got these comedians come along and make fun of them. I don't make fun of Koreans.
No,
I thought
it was a terrible idea, and also, at least from my point of view, it seemed highly unlikely that Korea was behind that hack job. I mean, listen, if a building burns down mysteriously and there's financial issues related to that business, who do you look at? If a wife gets murdered and, you know, there's been trouble with a marriage, who do you look at? I mean, it's like, keep it close to home. It just seemed to me really unlikely that North Korea was actually, they were probably completely incensed and
they're a
insulted.
pawn. They're a pawn. They're a pawn. You know, every place, to my knowledge, on the planet is run by the New World Order, except China and the Arab countries or the Muslim countries. The Muslim countries don't believe in usury, so they're not prone to the same financial manipulation that almost all the other countries. And China is still the sleeping giant. And by the way, the Chinese were engineered by the Greys, in my opinion.
Interesting.
You know, they represent a whole different consciousness.
Right.
They're the opposite. They're the right brain of the Earth. They have their family name first and their own name second. But they're all entering the Aquarian age, and everybody's becoming an Aquarian. We're all becoming Aquarians because we're entering the Aquarian age. So we're all becoming world citizens. And so sooner or later, people are just going to laugh at the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and not buy into their money and not buy into their political games and just say, we're not into your stuff anymore, dude. And they're just going to be like the Wicked Witch and the Wizard of Oz. They're going to melt and be gone. But we just got to weather in the next 100 years because this environment could be destroyed by these satanic money grubbers.
Right.
So it's going to take human beings waking up and working together, which is what's happening. I've never seen people come together more. I've never seen more spiritual growth among people countermeasured by more fascist resistance from society than I have over the last 10 years. And, you know, you got to ask yourself, how long do you live compared to eternity? Which is more important, the future of the planet or the soul of humanity? Now, I want to protect our planet because we're supposed to steward our planet. Mm-hmm. So environmentalism is very important. It's a test of our character. But the number one thing I always work on is the soul of humanity, is the soul of my clients and myself. To become a good person is the most important thing that we can do. But what does it mean to be a good person? It means to care for other human beings. It means to love. But is love blind? If somebody asks you for a gun, are you going to give them a gun? You know, or are you going to give them some wisdom and some love? So how long do we live compared to eternity? Well, answer, we are immortal, and we chose this drama. It is our collective karmic will to be in this place at this time. What should we do? We should love each other and teach each other and share and learn from each other. And this is a glorious opportunity we have to lay down our lives for each other and to love each other and learn from each other. So this is actually a wonderful time to grow.
Give me some general trends that you see for 2015.
Yeah, we kind of skirted the issue. I kind of digressed as usual, but thank you. Well, Pluto's still going to be in Capricorn in the mid degrees, so there's going to be more of a financial meltdown and going to be more like general depression. There's going to be a lot of people making a lot of money very quickly, which I know a lot of the listeners, people here in Hollywood, they're very intent upon that. There's going to be, since we're entering the year of the sheep, which is different from the year of the horse has been a lot of networking with a lot of results for the last year. We're going to start, the year of the sheep's very artistic and very beautiful. It's a little cynical, like Year of the Sheep people like George Harrison or Heath Ledger or Nicole Kidman. Very beautiful, but a little cynical. And I call it the jaded prince. So we're going to see a lot of artistic projects coming to fruition that a lot of your listeners have been working on for a long time. And it's not going to be easy because they're going to have to struggle with the money and with each other. We're going to see more truth being told than ever before. We're going to see a lot of people very tired of being poor, and so they're going to want to work more responsibly to be successful and prosperous. We're going to see more revelations about the surveillance state and more resistance to the surveillance state. We're going to see a restructuring of world currency beginning to take place more and more this year. It's been going on already, but behind the scenes, who knows? How many Americans know that almost all the money in the world is in hedge funds now? Which is just derivatives. It's just a fiat fiction run by the New World Order bankers in order to please their toadies.
Let me ask you this.
In order to keep themselves in control.
Do you see because a lot of people thought that in 2014, surely there would be some form of financial correction, and it didn't really come. I mean, there were a couple of periods of time where it lost a little bit. It's all come back by the end of the year and more. So do you see any period in 2015 that a correction could be likely?
Well, it's all a charade.
Right.
The only real correction is going to come, I believe, when China and the Arab countries and Russia, who's kind of like pulled in two different directions because they were set up in the first place by the New World Order, but they've kind of defected from the New World Order. Putin is trying to take it out of the New World Order.
Yeah.
But he's playing footsie with them still, too. It's like a mafia state, Russia, basically. But so is the whole world, only it has a better smiley face on top. Most of the liquidity in our world financial structure is due to illegal drugs, actually. That's another shocking thing, heroin and cocaine. And the crime cartels are huge, and they're run by the governments, or the people, I should say, who own the governments.
Or they partner with governments.
Excuse me?
Or they partnering
with governments, run by the people who own the governments, because the people who print the money, as Maya Rothschild pointed out, are the ones who control humanity, not the people who control the vote or the government, but the people who print the money. But the money is changing, and that's why we're going through a fundamental restructuring of planet Earth right now and the consciousness of all people in it. It's a tough winter. And people are having to be for real. It's not like the la 70s where you could disco all day long, and you could trust on the American financial manufacturing base and trading base and intellectual properties to keep you in free money, basically. Your parents' money, basically, the baby boomers. Now it's a tough winter. It's Valley Forge, and we are having to wake up and take responsibility. NAFTA, as engineered by Uncle Bill, who's owned by the Rothschilds.
Yep.
Bill. God, what's his name again? The charming, philandering president. Bill Clinton. Yeah.
I'm not a
Bill
fan.
Clinton helped to put the happy face on NAFTA, which took away our American labor force, destroyed Detroit,
and Glass-Steagall.
Yes, and all that stuff. And then Bushes are owned by the Rockefellers. They came in, and the Rothschilds have a kind of a healthy little rivalry, and I love all you people. I love you Rothschilds and Rockefellers and Jesuits and everybody. I don't mean you any harm. You're gonna be a historical footnote one day, like we all are in the. But Americans have to wake up, because all our problems are our own doing. That's always the way it is. Mm-hmm. We were arrogant. We thought we were the best country in the world. We had a right to exploit third world countries with United Fruit. American forces decimated the Philippines. They killed 1 out of 10 villagers in the Philippines. They killed 5 million men, women, and children in Vietnam. And this is done at the behest of the world economic powers, which are ruled by Capricorn. Capricorn rules money and wealth. It's the mountaintop. It's Saturn. Give unto Saturn, give unto Satan what is Satan's, give unto God what is God's, or give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Actually, it's the right quote. Caesar is worldly authority. The next higher authority is consciousness and love, humanitarianism. That's ruled by Aquarius. Then higher love is ruled by Pisces, which is divine love. And that's the last sign of the zodiac. So it goes from the bottom to the top. We're going through winter signs right now, so we're going through the enlightenment of humanity right now, but it's been a real kind of tough wake-up call for America. America went from being the most loved country in the world when we were children to being the most hated country in the world now that we're adults. And we have to redeem the soul of America through true humanitarian work. And that's what's actually happening. I have never seen my brothers and sisters in the entertainment and metaphysical fields more dedicated to helping humanity through media, which is the mind of the planet, is media. So we're going to see more and more incredible media projects. Ascent Expo is one that's in its infancy. I've been working a little bit on here in LA, but there's going to be more and more mass media consciousness-raising events, and these will mature in 2015. There's a lot of hope. People are waking up. And like I say, which is more important, to just have an easy, comfortable life, being wealthy and not doing anything, or to struggle and to strive to help humanity? And we're being forced to do it. Conscious growth is pleasurable. Forced growth is painful. And America's going through Pluto return in Capricorn opposite her sun in the sign Cancer. It's kind of like small town America getting invaded by the Greys, but you see, the Greys are a reflection of us. We're all life is one. We have been compartmentalized into being humanoid earthlings. And so we are really spiritual beings having a human experience, as is said, not humans having a spiritual experience. But we are having to let go of our attachment to money in order to find true prosperity, which is the foundation of all true wealth, which is through love. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, thy soul, thy mind, and thy strength, and love thy neighbor as thyself. We are being forced to live love at this time, or to perish as a corrupt society.
I don't know what to say. I'm just thinking about that. You also are a medium, and you channel. And one of the things that has always, I'm very much interested in all of these topics, and, where do we go from here? Where do we come from? What happens after death? And one of the things that I've wrestled with is the idea that we could communicate with people after their death. And as a mental exercise, I would think, well, wait a minute. Would they still be individuals that we would know, or would they be assimilated into some form of, more mass consciousness? I'm not a medium that I know of, so I'm looking at this kind of just from a thought exercise type situation. But you are a medium. You have channeled individuals. Tell me about that. Well,
all is consciousness. Quantum physicists have discovered this, that it's like David Bohm, the great quantum physicist, says that an electron is not an object. It is a perturbation in a field. So the field is God consciousness, or divine eternal consciousness. And within that, we have our own mental consciousness. And within that mental consciousness, we have earth and personality and ego and mind. So what I do is I let go and I let God.
Mm-hmm.
Who we really are is God. We are really divine, eternal consciousness, or awareness, even more basically, awareness of consciousness. So everybody who has ever lived is eternal because God is eternal. Mm-hmm. Now they have a name, they have like, Fidel Castro or Marilyn Monroe. They have personalities which are astrologically, because there's three levels. There's physical, astral, and causal. Causal is the eternal consciousness of God, the eternal oneness with the divine. And that is who we're all one. We are all the same. I am you and you and me, and we are all together. We're all one. Now, when I switch on a channel of a individual, a name, a face, a consciousness, that's like a wave on the sea, and I go into that wave. At heart, we're all water. We're all the same. But on the surface, we're each a different wave. So when I go, when I talk to Michael Parker, for example, I like to resonate with who you are as I perceive you. And astrology enables me to see you more clearly than anything else. Mm-hmm. Now, I like to think that everybody's like a soul inside a temple with all these different windows. The more windows you have, the better you can see the soul in the temple. That's why I also study face reading, eye reading, iridology, palm reading, Myers-Briggs terminology used by psychologists, enneagrams. I use every system of personality analysis that I can come across so that I can understand people better and help my clients better and grow better. So, but at any rate, when I channel, I let go, I let God, I see that person, and I become that person because we are all one, so I become that person, whether living or dead. Okay? Now, there's no such thing as death. Death is an illusion. We are all eternal. Mm-hmm. Now, in our mental apparatus, we think of ourselves, you think of yourself maybe as Michael Parker, and you have a body, and you have these people you know, and that's all great, but it's really all based on consciousness. And who is aware of all this is God, because you are God, so you are aware of all that. So I just go to God, and I let the energy of the individual come to me, and I become that person. Now, time is an illusion as well, which is such a kind of a hackneyed cliche. What does that mean? Time is an illusion. We are eternal, and time is entirely based on physical parameters. The sunset, sunrise, the ticking of the clock, the movement of sensory objects. I am beyond sensory objects, and then when I am in touch with the divine, and if it's a good or useful thing for me to resonate with somebody from the past or even the future, then I will do that. And then if stuff comes out through my mind, my consciousness, that can be helpful to other people to see, then I will allow that to happen. And I do that occasionally with great teachers. I channel Jesus Christ all the time. I mean, Jesus Christ is my number one friend in the universe, because he has helped me more than anybody else that I know. But I also have a lot of friends who have helped me, and a lot of living and dead, and I love all the great teachers, and so I am in them and they are in me. But it's like Christ says, I do no work save by the Father within. And by God, I mean Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, the divine spirit of eternal love. And that is where I hang out as much as I can, in the divine spirit of eternal love. And so when I channel, I don't see life or death. And I see personality, but to me, personality is kind of a joke. It's funny, because I mean, to think that you're Michael Parker and I'm Joseph Ross, and that we're different from everybody else, and that we have, that we're like separate from, thus in a sense, from God, it's ridiculous. We don't know who we are. We're just children. So to me, it's all a kind of a fun thing. It's the Leela. It's the divine play. Everybody takes channeling so seriously. Oh, hear those 3 knocks on the table. Does that mean Uncle Ralph is really here?
Right.
Well, you know what? You couldn't escape Uncle Ralph if you tried. The harder you try, the more he's there. He's right inside you. You can talk to anybody who has died, including your parents or anybody who has died, any time you want. And you'll have a purer conversation with them than when they were alive and separated from you by their ego and their body. And that's the amazing thing. We take this material realm so seriously, and it's all temporary illusion. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. The astrology enables me to understand personality very quickly. It's like I dial a clock, I see the person, I get in. I just did Andy Warhol in front of 150 people at the Underground Museum here in L.A., and I kick back and I watch them do the thing. It's not even me, it's God, bringing them out for people to see. And Andy Warhol was very sweet, very loving, very caring. And Nixon was also. Everybody's beautiful. Everybody's wonderful people. Even the Rothschilds. I love you, Rothschilds. But I mean, some people are harder to love than others. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yes.
Because they kind of have more ego, and they're more invested in their money and their ego, and they're more skeptical and they're tough, like the Capricorn energy. I did a lot of Capricorns last night. They were generally really good, but some of them are so hard. Oh my gosh. But because they're the world's greatest skeptics, Capricorns, that humbug, Isaac Asimov, was always putting down astrology. And here he was a science fiction writer. I could never figure that out. But, people got a thing about God, about death, about who they are, and they don't even study any of this stuff. I always recommend people study the teachings of Nisargadatta Maharaj and Sri Ramana Maharshi, non-dualist Vedanta teachers, as well as Joel Goldsmith and the Course in Miracles, and just pray by letting go of your mind and surrendering to the divine bliss of God. Don't even ask for anything. God knows what we need before we know. Just let go and let God and love God. And if you're called upon to channel, then you'll channel. If you're called upon to build a temple, you'll build a temple. If you're called upon to fight against the state, you'll fight against. If you're called upon to be an evil weasel, then there's a purpose in that too, because it gives us something. Gives us a warning of what not to be. Like he serves a perfectly good purpose as a bad example. We got a lot of those right now in the public eye. How many people that are famous and successful can you think of that you respect versus how many people that are friends of yours do you respect?
Right.
I can think of almost nobody in the public eye that I really respect. You know what I'm saying? Because that which is highly esteemed among men is abomination in the sight of God. All great teachers have met violent resistance, as Einstein pointed out. They tried to kill Einstein. I don't know if you know that they had a Nazi spy shot him, and his wife deflected the gun, which saved his life. That's actually true. So that which is, you cannot be a friend of God and mammon. The earth is a beautiful place in terms of its nature, but the society of earth is full of evil. It is all about duplicity and lying and cheating and stealing. Only vile men rise to the top, as it says in the Bible. Now, that kind of flies in the face of prosperity consciousness, which says that money is good. Well, yeah, money is good. It's a wonderful thing when used as a tool, but it can also blind people. The blind addiction to money is a source of much evil, much pain, much suffering, much conflict. But even that is a wake-up call. Even that serves a purpose in terms of warning us not to be vampires, but rather to be angelic and loving and higher. So it's all good if we have the eyes to see.
I get it. Let me ask you this, because we've done a lot of heavy lifting in this show, so I think the audience has earned a little ice cream now. Give me some pop culture astrology for the remainder of you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because
it's not the easiest thing in the world for me to do, because I don't really care much about pop culture.
Well,
it's fun, but and I don't, as you may have noticed, I don't do a lot of predictions. My job is to help people create their fate, not await their fate. And what's going to happen to Bill Cosby? Oh, I think it's going to get worse for him. He's probably going to go to jail, or he's going to have like a peptic ulcer in his cancer-ruled tummy, you know. But I would rather not. I'd rather see it not. I'd rather see him make a total confession,
sure,
and redeem himself as a human being, you know. And you know, what's going to happen with pop culture? Well, it says about as insipid as it could possibly get. It's run by the 5 major media conglomerates who basically are giving us pablum. I saw the New Year's celebration, and I couldn't believe that's singing and that's music. You know, it was just ridiculous to me. Pablum. But you know, I do predict.
I agree with you, and I find it interesting that is where we are, because I don't want to sound like an old man. I do sound like an old man, though, because, I mean, if you just take music, for example, I mean, yeah, you're right. I saw some of that last night as well, and it seems so trivial. And at this point in the game, where the stakes are so high, you know, I always wonder why, you know, well, I don't wonder. I mean, I see various reasons for it, but, you know, where's the protest music? Where is the music of great social significance? Where perhaps it's moved to different art forms. But
it's on the internet. It's more on the internet. All truth is now on the internet. The 5 media conglomerates that own all our media, after Michael Powell, the son of Colin Powell, was head of the FCC and allowed that legislation to go, or whatever it was that went through. You know, it's the dumbing down of America. It's bread and circuses. It's similar to the Roman Empire, which happened at the last turning of the ages, where they watched gladiators kill each other and lions eat Christians. Now they watch that in the movies. There's nothing but cheap sex and rampant violence, basically. But it's funny, you also have the best stuff I've ever seen that's happening, too, and it's just interspersed with other stuff, and it's harder to find. So I do believe that the spiritual growth that I see taking place on the planet will be promoting greater art and greater quality of life. Even it's going to get worse on one level and better on the other, and it's going to keep ratcheting up during this Pluto and Capricorn age until we hit Pluto and Aquarius in 2022, 2020, you know, it goes back and forth, so they're not clear boundaries. But we're approaching a divine age of incredible illumination, and as Sam Kurzweil points out in his seminal work, the Singularity, which I recommend for everybody to read. You know, we're going towards a complete transformation of human consciousness. It's already happening. The spiritual consciousness also is transforming because of globalization. You know, people are coming together from all over the planet to teach each other the things they need to know. I've been married to an incredibly wonderful psychic Filipina for 14 years, and she teaches me a lot more from the Filipino perspective than I could ever learn almost from anywhere else. And she's also on my Venus descendant line in my astrocartography. Some people will know what that means. But globalization is bringing us together for higher consciousness, and the consciousness of humanity is going to zoom during the next 20 years. And so it's all going to handheld. You know, I've been doing film financing. I've been vetting indies for a company now, you know, as part of my mission, but also, you know, as a kind of a different kind of mission. But over the last year, and it's all going, the studios are dying, the music industry has almost already died.
Right.
And it's all going to indies. And so we're seeing a complete economic restructuring of the planet, including the media. So all that studio stuff is dying, and it's giving its little squeaking last timid gasps by the insipid so-called music that you see coming from the business conglomerates. And it's now, the only place that's dynamic is with the small guys, because everything is going from top down to bottom up. And the people, this is the age of Mapo to the Buddhists, the people are going to take over. They are taking over, but the fascist top-down economic dictators are holding on tight, and they don't want to let go. But we just, you eventually you just get tired of that, and you just go to the Berlin Wall and you just tear it down. If you got 1 million people tearing down the Berlin Wall, what are they going to do? There's nothing they can do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got 1 million people that say this stuff is crap, I'm not watching it anymore, I'm going to go to the internet, which is what's happening now. A mass defection from the old style fascist, studio system, which takes all of them. I got all these indie producers coming to me and they say, I had 50 hits and I don't have enough money to make my own project. So I helped them get matching funds.
So wait a minute, you're saying some of these producers they've had hit material in the past.
It's all gone to the studio swimming pools and mansions, the studio executives.
But now they can't. Yeah. But now they can't.
They got no money of their
projects.
own. They've had no equity in their own projects.
Right.
Okay, so they've had all these hits and all these credits, and they got no money to develop their own project. They don't even know how to. They don't even know what an executive summary is. They don't even know how to write a budget because they've been like the children of the studio system.
Okay, because I guess what I'm surprised about is like why the studios won't go back to the well with them and say, well, okay, so these people produced hits for me in the past. Why not fund them going forward? Or they just think they're old hat and they're not hip enough anymore and bring on the newer?
No, it's more, pardon me for interrupting, Michael, but it's more just basically the studios want to keep all the money. They don't want to give any of it away. They want to basically keep these people working for coolie wages, relatively speaking. I mean, if you get a movie like, Blair Witch Project, which was made for $50,000 and it made $150 million.
Right.
And it's an indie. That's a wake-up call.
Sure.
Then what the studios do is they keep churning out these $100 million flicks that make $30 million. The Lone Ranger.
Yeah, that I never saw that film, but
that's why it never made any money.
Just a little bit ago. I don't know how much that costs. I think I heard estimates about $90 million, and then because of this whole hullabaloo around it, and it was poorly advised from the beginning. I think they grossed about $3 million in theaters last week or whatever it was when they finally put it out. I mean, just a huge, ridiculous mistake for a company that should have known better.
Well, that's why they had the international incident, is to publicize the movie. I'm being a little facetious, of
right?
course,
No.
But it's like wag the dog. Nowadays we're entering the Aquarian age. It's all a movie. People spend more time in TV than they do anywhere else. People are watching 8 hours of TV a day, and now it's going to handheld. Everything is just we're living in a movie. Life imitates art, and that's the Aquarian age. It's all a dream. It's all a movie. It's all a story. Are we leading a heroic story, or are we involved in a tragedy? And that's our choice. Are we going to be heroes or zeros? And that's why, all the most talented people in the world are here in L.A. in the movie industry, some in New York, some in London. But everything, L.A. is the new capital of the world. Just ask Jose Arguelles, who did the Mayan factor. And, L.A. is the new capital of the world, and it's at the base of the Sierra Nevada mountains here in California, which is the spine. The stomach is San Joaquin Valley. The third eye is Mount Shasta, and then it goes down to the Hollywood, which is the sexual organs, and to the eliminative organs, which is like the pollution of southern L.A., Long Beach, etc., oil pollution, etc. So we're, the sexual organs are right next to the anus, just like the mouth is next to the brain. And so we got this like incredible power in L.A., and we got this incredible ignorance in L.A. And in the Buddhist system, we're in the eighth world, which is the world of absorption, they call it, which is the world of creativity. But everybody thinks that their creations are more important than doing good. So, like, everybody wants to do the most profitable genre is low budget horror.
Right.
I write stuff which I'm marketing, which is like socially meaningful and funny as can be in that genre, which is parodies what's going on in the world. But I'm not here to promote myself in that respect. So I just want to always help promote positive media that enlightens humanity, but it better have some entertainment values. It better
Joseph,
have some story values. Excuse me, go ahead.
I agree. I want to promote you, and I know that the seconds are ticking away till the music comes blasting back on. Tell people how they can reach out to Joseph Ross. Where are you on the internet, and how can people find you?
Yeah, I have a site called Joseph Ross Psychic Astrology, which is my website, and it's for my private readings and my party business. I also do stand up. I'm kind of a funny guy, and I do everything I can to enlighten people and entertain people. JosephRossPsychicAstrology.com. But you can always email me at JosephRossInc, JosephRoss, Ross, Inc, INC, at AOL.com. That's JosephRossInc at AOL.com. And, I do private readings as well as parties.
And you're on Facebook
events
as well, I think.
Yes, I do have an active Facebook page, and I'm in LinkedIn. I'm still one of those guys who's learning social media, but I'm pretty available.
Well, I can tell
always,
people.
Yeah.
I can attest to, I've had readings by you and found them extremely informative. I mean, I can actually remember conversations that you and I have had and think you were the first person to tell me about Lilith. You told me that there was a yod, and it was the first time I'd ever heard about a yod. I mean, so I would encourage any of my listeners who would like to get a reading to reach out to Joseph Ross. Once again, that's JosephRossPsychicAstrology.com. You can find Joseph Ross on Facebook as well, and it will be well worth your time. And Joseph, I thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. What is up for you for the remainder of this big 2015 year?
Well, I just let go and I let God, and I'm doing everything I can to help humanity. I'm actually starting a soulmate matchmaking agency based on spiritual principles, in which we're going to develop the love hour throughout LA. And I have a bunch of friends that are working. How many people do you know who are happy in love? You and me, but it's just we need more love on the planet. So I'm developing the General Motors Corporation of Love right now, and I'm still doing the media promotions and spiritual media promotions, but mostly I'm just totally dedicated to helping humanity any way I can, and I just see always love is the answer, and caring for people and helping people is the most important thing we can do at this time in our lives.
Joseph Ross, you are truly a gentleman and a genius, and I really appreciate you coming on tonight, and thank you for shining a few lights into some things that we need to hear about going into 2015, because everyone always has high hopes for a new year, and they look back on the year that they've just had, and it's good to hear about it from a different point of view. And thank you for giving us your take on the presidential race that is about to come, because I know a lot of people want to.
It wasn't very positive. The president is just the new Caesar or the new teleprompter reader. The real key is what we do. The real key, it's all up to each and every one of us. And you know what? I love this life. I'm so fortunate, and I know that anybody who's hearing these words right now, enjoy this wonderful, beautiful life. You can accomplish miracles. You can help millions of people right now. Keep the faith and don't give up. It's always darkest before the dawn. We're here to do important work, and we're so fortunate to be here.
Amen, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't say it any better than that. My name is Michael Parker. This has been the 29th episode of The Electric Pyramid. We've been speaking with my friend Joseph Ross. Joe Kiernan, thank you. Joseph, thank you. My audience, thank you. God bless you guys. Triangulate the truth. We'll see you next week. Good night.